Good evening, everyone. I'm your host, Jason Miles, here for another episode of This is Revolution Podcast. If you are new to the channel, welcome. So glad to have you here. If you do like what we're doing, please hit like and subscribe. It is a passive gesture that goes a long way in promoting the channel. If you are a returning listener, subscriber, or one of our very valued patrons, so glad to have you back. Just to let you know that we will be going into the champagne room tonight. Now, if you'd like to be a passenger on the Ridiculousness Express, there's a couple of ways. Become a paid YouTube subscriber or a patron. You will be able to join us for champagne rooms and movie night watch parties. Again, if you want to be a part of the audience, become a patron or a paid YouTube subscriber. If you're watching on YouTube, just hit join and you're in. Wherever you are watching or listening, there is a link in the description to become a patron. If you are listening to this program on Apple later, then become a paid subscriber there, and you will get instant access to all of the champagne rooms, past and present. Now, on to what you guys came here for, the anti-globalization protests at the end of the 20th century. What you guys came here for. If I bring up the year 1999 from a U.S. context and ask about a major event, most people would probably mention Woodstock 99 and the ensuing riot. Maybe some viewers of this show would recall the anti-globalization protests that erupted at the end of that year, but I doubt it. Those demonstrations didn't have a catchy slogan like Occupy Wall Street. When people talk about the origins of the modern left, they often point to Zuccotti Park as the genesis. You'd think New York was the center of the goddamn world. But jokes aside, the lack of awareness about the 1999 protests and their significance is worth examining, especially when we talk about the rise of fascistic police repression, the difference between demonstration and protest, and the consequences of not reaching your political goals. Recently, we did a show discussing the protests we're seeing today across Asia and Africa, many of them leaderless movements, and asked whether they'll end up like the protest movements of the 2010s. But the WTO protests in 1999 were different. The World Trade Organization was seen as an undemocratic force that threatened to devastate U.S. manufacturing by incentivizing the more move to cheap, unregulated labor overseas. It also posed a disaster for the environment, as global corporations could pollute without oversight. Meanwhile, in agriculture, Monsanto's rise was already wreaking havoc on U.S. agribusiness. A diffuse coalition of anti-WTO activists gathered in Seattle in November 1999 to protest the organization's first ever meeting on U.S. soil. Trade unions and environmental NGOs came to peacefully demonstrate, but the Seattle Police Department had other ideas. In scenes reminiscent of the campus crackdowns of the 1960s, police tear-gassed and pepper-sprayed peaceful protesters. Some protesters fought back, and by fighting back, they damaged property, to the dismay of many who were there, with more targeted political aims. But the visual of broken glass and flames during the holiday season was all the media needed to create the narrative of violent protesters, portraying them as rebels with no coherent agenda, simply venting nihilistic rage. Our guest today, Alex MEGARO, has produced a remarkable documentary that revisits those events through archival footage, much of it unseen, showing both the newsroom cutting room floor and the protesters' own recordings. There's no narration, just the events unfolding as they happened. If Rodney King taught us anything, it's this: when the police show up, pull out a camera. Today we'll talk with Alex about his film, the events of that week, and what lessons we can draw from that era. Please welcome Alex MEGARO.
Fantastic intro. Thank you.
Well, thank you for taking the time to come here and talk with me. And, you know, if you're putting that much love into a project, if I can't show a little respect by caring about the introduction to your appearance, then maybe I'm being a little disrespectful. First and foremost, I really enjoyed the movie that you guys put together. And I was saying this off air. There's another movie. What was it called? You mentioned it.
Oh, Let the Fire Burn.
Let the Fire Burn, about the MOVE bombing. And those two things, when you watch them, your movie and that movie, kind of burns something into your eyes of, you can read about these things. You can see little TikTok-esque footage clips, but when you sit there for an entire feature length and you watch this thing play out, again, without narration, you're literally just watching it play out. It just really gets to you. And I was having visceral reactions to some of the things I was seeing and hearing
Yeah.
because I was a parent by then, 1999, but like a lot of Americans, and I'm just from the San Francisco Bay Area, so 15-hour drive down the I-5
Wow.
from where that happened. It wasn't as big news nationwide like you would think. And again, when you talk about 1999, more people are probably banging up Beanie Babies than these protests. Why this subject, first and foremost? What was it about those protests that resonated with you and your co-filmmaker on this, where you guys were like, let's do a documentary?
So yeah, so I made this with my filmmaking partner Ian Bell. He's director, my co-editor on it. I'm producer and co-editor, and we both came to it from different angles, but our own personal obsession. So in Ian's case, he's a Seattle native. He was born there, raised there, and when the protests were happening, he happened to be living abroad. He was living outside the U.S. from the time these protests happened through 9/11, so a pretty
Okay.
important time there. But while the protests are happening, he was getting letters and dispatches and hearing from friends who were attending and are part of it, hearing what was really going on. And then from afar, he'd see the media reporting on it and just know that the real story wasn't really coming out. The way they were reporting the narrative wasn't what was happening on the street. So, that stayed with him. And obviously he's researched it over the years, became kind of obsessed with it. And I often tease him and just say, the ultimate form of FOMO is to spend 2.5 years editing 1,000 hours of footage of the party that you missed. And he gets in, kind of agrees, but
That's how long it took you guys.
it took, yeah, roughly from when we started editing, it was about 2.5 years. There was a project we discussed and tried getting financing for, got up to maybe 8 years ago when we were first discussing it, trying to make this thing happen. For me, I'm a bit younger than him.
Mm.
So I was roughly about 12 when this was all happening. And I remember it as a small blip on the news. I remember my
Yeah.
parents would watch the nightly news and I'd hear, the Starbucks windows were broken. And I was supposed to feel really bad about that for whatever reason. And I vividly remember that. Just it was a constant for a day or so, and then just kind
Mhm.
of went away. But it was all you heard about, the broken windows, and then my parents kind of just saying, "Ah, the fucking hippies are doing their shit again," and that's all I knew. Those were the two angles that I heard from. And as I got older and read more about this and researched it, I too discovered that the media narrative was they were hiding a lot of what actually went on, and the story was not really getting out. So it was always just something in the back of my brain for similar reasons as Ian. The media reporting on it kind of just made us furious. And yeah, so this became a project that we wanted to tackle for those reasons, but also due to we got very lucky with the timing of this due to the archive. So this film is purely archival, as you
Yeah.
mentioned, and right around when we finally got financing together and finally had the ability to make this, the IMC archive, which is the Independent Media Center, which is you see members of it and the actual location throughout the film. They had this tape archive that had been sitting in a box in someone's basement for roughly 25 years or 20-ish years. And they had been collecting it for all these years, tapes from anyone who was there, anyone on the ground, citizen journalists, some media, just all these tapes collecting. They had just started to get digitized right when we were getting
No
the ability to make this
way.
film. So it was very fortuitous in that sense. It was roughly 400 hours of footage, and that made up the spine of the film. So the timing was right. We got lucky. We got access to that, and then from there, we became a known quantity in Seattle. This was being made. People would contact us saying, "I got 20 tapes in my basement," and we're like, "Oh hell yeah, 20 more tapes! Ah shit,
Really?
20 more tapes to go through," because it was just an endless flood of footage. And then we brought on, I got to call out Deborah McClutchy, an incredible archival producer who helped us accrue more footage from various archives, media archives, places she had connections to. So yeah, it was a mix of this obsession that we both had, and that timing of this archive being digitized, the importance of that, and us, getting in on the ground floor of it.
Quite serendipitous indeed. One of the things that, again, back to a reason why I think people don't know much about this, a lot of the news footage that you're getting is either like the actual in in meeting stuff from the WTO, right? Which almost looks like C-SPAN type footage, and then footage from the local news station. So you're
Mhm.
not getting a ton of national news coverage. And I think this is probably going to sound condescending, and to our younger audience, I'm not trying to condescend, but there's local news, and then there was national news. And cable news is like this whole different thing that has kind of consistently been about opinions. But for the footage that you guys are getting, um, I really liked that you were getting the local stuff, because it is the local stuff that's a little more entrenched in the community.
Mhm.
And their job is to talk to people. There's cameramen function a little differently locally than on the national scale. Did people even want to send cameramen into this melee because they were attacking the cameraman, and you have some of that
Yeah.
footage.
Yeah, it's that footage once again is, we're very lucky to have it, the local news footage, because that was part of that IMC archive that had been saved all these years. We had someone had been taping the local news off TV every night, and that single or those few VHS tapes of that footage is the only record, as far as we're aware, of
No
any of
way.
that, because someone decided to tape it off their TV. Because at local news, they would often wipe their tapes after a certain amount of time. They don't have the funding to keep these archived forever. So that was very fortunate that this existed and that was preserved in its way. And it really allowed us to do something that we never expected either until we were in this footage for so long, is we were able to do these real-time media checks. We could show you how the local news was covering the action on the ground at that very moment, and compare it with some one of the protesters, demonstrators, citizen journalists, what have you, who are in the melee, and how they're seeing it from their eye. And you can see how the media manipulation is happening in real time. And that was just something we discovered as we went through this footage, that we even had, as you saw in the film, there's a reporter on the street on day 2, and someone just happened to be following him with a camcorder as he was doing his live
Yeah.
broadcasts. And that guy just being his just inserting himself into that guy's day, into that reporter's day, gave us this compare and contrast that you could just never normally get. So once again, very fortunate, but it also starts showing, you see the how media manipulation works in so many ways. And we're really happy that we could convey that, because as I said, it was a big reason of why we're so interested in this whole event. One of the simpler things is that on day 2, when this reporter is going around calling in, doing live reports on the local news, and then this guy with a camcorder is following him around as he's doing his reports, you can see how there's a girl at one point, young woman, she has been pepper sprayed in the face.
Yeah, they're trying to get that pepper spray out of her eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, and so there you see other demonstrators who are there helping her get it out of her eyes with the water bottle, and this news reporter interviews her, kind of just shoving his cell phone in her face, and says, "Hey, what was it like?" And what's incredible is, on the street, you don't get this, but when you can cut to the live broadcast, this is a woman who has just been pepper sprayed, attacked by police. She's probably terrified and is not media trained. And so there's this very awkward silence on the actual broadcast. He goes, "So how are you feeling right now?" Long pause. Uh, I mean, I got pepper sprayed, and she's not collecting her words very well because she's just been pepper sprayed. But the way that comes off on a live news broadcast to viewers who might be watching it is, oh, this kind of stupid protester. She doesn't know how to speak, impromptu live on the air. And you see elements of that all throughout, how even the reporter never pauses when he's on the phone doing a live call in, because the constant flurry of speech is a way for us to not think about what we're seeing live on the broadcast. So it's a small moment, but it says so much about how this was being reported, how the manipulation works in real time, and the ability to show that kind of in a one-to-one comparison. We just very fortunate that we had the footage for it, and that we could edit it the way we could.
Here's a question for you that isn't one of my prepared questions. That's an interesting scene. And in 2025, I don't know if we'd have the same kind of realism where someone wouldn't know what to say
That's
with
very
a camera
true.
in their face. Do you feel that the constant pressure of cameras in our faces and people kind of being born into almost being savvy media personalities through social media, selfies, the online live video that so many of us do, for even the mundane aspects of our lives, do you think that that situation would look the same now?
I would say there's a good chance, insofar as if you were just pepper sprayed, you're probably discombobulated and what have you. I think there's a better chance of some random person on the street or at one of these demonstrations having that preparedness to speak on camera, just because there's a higher chance of it. There's so many people are, yeah, like you said, they're trained from when they're younger. It's what the culture is now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think it it would be a little different for sure. But I don't doubt that same situation could arise because, when you're suddenly, if you're on the street, you're suddenly pepper sprayed or tear gassed. I think that throws a lot of people off their game.
And it was pretty insidious what happened. And we'll get into this, but first, what made the 1999 WTO protests in Seattle a turning point in global resistance to neoliberalism?
So this was one of the biggest protests in the United States since the Vietnam War. It was Maybe we should just get into a little bit about what the WTO
Sure.
is. So the WTO, it began after World War II. There was a treaty called the GATT Treaty, the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. That was between 23 countries, and it was a way to lower trade barriers, reduce tariffs, and just increase trade, make it easier between different countries. Over the years, they wanted to create something larger, something more controlling. And in the early 90s, there was discussion and eventual formation of what we know as the World Trade Organization. This involved, at the time of the movie, or time of 1999, when the events were taking place, 135 nations. It's basically, they wanted to create a consensus-based organization akin to the UN, and they wanted to establish rules for international trade and a way to enforce those rules if a country goes rogue or what have you. And so what this really does is, in short, it takes power away from the local and national level and hands it to a global unelected body that can overwrite the laws of sovereign nations. So this was understandably a big sticking point, because people who are going to be running this organization have the power there are the largest corporations in the world and people placed in by billionaires. And just for an example of what this means, let's say there's a food labeling system in the United States that is very honest and shows when there's harmful stuff in your food. The World Trade Organization could come in and say, that is an impediment to free trade if people have this information. So we can't really do that. There could be, either in the US or any country in the world, let's say a limit on carbon emissions that has been voted on by the people in this country, put in by or implemented by democratically elected officials. And the World Trade Organization could come in and say, you know what? That limit doesn't really work for us. It doesn't work for manufacturing. You got to up it to this level. And so they're essentially coming in, overriding the laws of democratically elected officials and sovereign nations, what have you. So this became a sticking point. Actually, word got out among various activist groups, and there was going to be a summit in '99. It was their big conference, and there were different locations that it could have been. I believe it was between Seattle, San Diego, and Honolulu. And people had been monitoring this, activist groups had been monitoring this from a year prior when they announced this as, or announced the location of the conference. Seattle's chosen. And from literally the day that it was announced that this was going to be in Seattle, organizers started working. There's a man named Mike Dolan. He's one of the main organizers of the larger protests. He's in the movie very briefly, but he was a huge part of making all of this happen. He was renting out full hotels the day that this was announced to be in Seattle. He was trying to purposely create this almost like shield around where the convention center was, so his people and various organizers, protesters, what have you, could start taking over these buildings. And this was, again, a year prior. He wanted to make sure his people had access, and that the various delegates and politicians, what have you, would just have a more difficult time getting close to the convention. So this was long in the process, long in the planning. The actual protest you see in the film, there's a little bit at the beginning of the training and the organizing around it. You see
Yeah.
in the Convergence Center, you see they're having like practice drills. What happens if you push against the cops? That you see the maps that they have put up with their plan for shutting down the different intersections. You see them they're trying out the lockdown, as they called it, when they have all their hands in these large pipes and they're all kind of chained together and form these kind of impenetrable little circles. So you see this, and what's important is that it's a brief moment in the film, but it is showing that this just takes a lot of organization. This isn't something that springs up overnight. People don't just show up on a street corner with signs and start protesting, as the media and everyone wants everyone here to believe, especially Americans. This was a very it was specific, it was targeted, and it was well thought out and well planned for a long time in advance. So this was, the pretty much the largest resistance against something like this that the US had seen in forever.
Probably 30 years.
Yeah, it was massive. And I'm escaping from what your question was.
It feels like also the memory is short too, because there's a lot of young people that I think when we look back, look, I wasn't alive for 1969. I think when we look back at that era, most of us see it as this kind of era of this massive fight back, and the fight backers winning to some degree, right? You might hear people say that we stopped the Vietnam War with our protests. It's like, no, it wasn't you alone. Viet Cong had something to say about that. But it's interesting to see, because your movie starts off there like, how do you put on a gas mask? Because that's got to be the furthest thing from their minds. No one mentions 91 in Los Angeles, so I'm assuming that none of these people, they would have had no business being there.
Yeah, they were all, it was like college kids at the very beginning.
Yeah, it's like
very innocent. They were probably like 6 when that was happening.
Very hopeful in a way too, right? Everyone sounds like real hopeful that that they're going to go there and they have this mission that they're going to shut this meeting down, and then they get there, and it seems like all hell is broken loose, and there's this scene that I think is one of the more powerful scenes, and something similar actually happened in Berkeley, California, near where I'm from, at the campus, where I think some guys actually got a settlement years later, but where they're in the arm locking, sitting, not. It really is the most non-threatening thing you can do, is just sit down in front of people and say no.
Mm-hmm.
That's not scary at all. These people aren't armed. None of them probably can fight.
Yeah,
you're good.
Yeah, the protests they're dorky at the beginning in this kind of charming way. It's a lot of artists, and there's puppets and dancing.
They're dancing.
It's very silly and endearing. Kind of naive, but hey, it's fine. It's probably baby's first protest for many people. But yeah, it starts very innocently. And as you see in the film, the goal of blocking those intersections, which you see on the map in the early portion of the film, they wanted to lock down and block all 13 intersections that were leading to the convention center. And because of the particular geography of Seattle, it's much easier to do it there than some other cities. So they had a very specific goal, but all the time they're chanting, nonviolence, we're nonviolent. It's a mix of chants. They're saying it, repeating it to the cops
Yeah.
constantly. It's a constant refrain. And it was the kids coming in with starry eyes. We're going to nonviolently resist. And they do. They sit, they block these intersections. And within 3 hours of them starting to do this, the cops are tear gassing them, pepper spraying them, beating the shit out of them, shooting them with rubber bullets, and
That
it's mayhem. It's that when the first gassing happens, 10:02 a.m. on day one, it's horrifically violent considering what the resistance is, which is a line of kids sitting. And what's so great about the archive that we have is we were able to show this. We were able to edit that scene specifically, many scenes in the film, but that one we had probably the most footage of anything. We were able to do continuity editing. You can see we could cut as if we placed a bunch of cameras around and we're cutting in real time, as
damn.
if we designed it like a narrative film, which is great for our purposes as filmmakers, but also it gave us the chance to do some unexpected things. Like there's a shot that we hold for, I would say, about 2 minutes, and it's just that line of kids, and that one guy in the parka, he's standing there, he's not doing anything, and the cops are starting to they're trying to push him back, they're blasting him with rubber bullets, like it's a constant flurry on him.
Yeah.
And you can see that you can't make the argument that we're cutting around them being violent to show the cops starting their rush on them. There's no question about it. It's unequivocal. You see it in this footage. They are sitting there, and one man is just standing, and the cop knocks him over the line, and then they just start gassing him, beating him, shooting him, driving that tank through where the line was once they gassed everyone out of there. It's a very violent escalation I mean, immediately. There was very little warning. They did some warnings on the PA system just saying, chemical agents will be used, but beyond that, as if that makes anything correct either, but just they escalated so quickly with no resistance, and then go to that press conference later that day and are just lying about it. There's a journalist who calls Norm
That
Stamper out, and he just
was
says
beautiful.
he was going, are you using rubber bullets? Norm Stamper, police chief, is just, I don't have to tell you the kind of weapons we're using. And then this reporter just says, why were you unleashing this? And he goes, well, people were rushing the line. He goes, no, 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 no. I was there, and they were seated. No one was charging you. They were chanting, and they were seated.
Mm-hmm.
And he has no response to that.
That was a beautiful exchange, and it almost felt like something from a time long ago that I don't know if I hear anymore, mainly because who works that beat anymore? And people
Yeah.
are just trying to get information, because I think the system in which we live in and how we take in information, how reporters report, is so different. Maybe you disagree. Like everything is content. And I'm so busy trying to collect content, I really don't have time to tell you no. And to hear a journalist go, no, that's not true. And he said it just like that. He goes, that's not true. I was there.
That kind of pushback is so rare these days.
It is
Yeah.
so rare. How many briefings, and it doesn't have to be the president, it could be the mayor, do you hear where you don't get that level of
It's very sassy, yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Because he's so confident, because I mean, he was there. He just says, this is factually untrue. I lived this a few hours earlier. And yeah, it's a very rare thing to see, and it's almost like makes you wistful in a way with seeing that.
Oh man, like I said, I watched it, and it really does. It sears something into me personally. I won't speak for other people that watch this, and I advise everyone watch this. If you're watching a show like this, you're gonna love this documentary. Now, maybe love is the wrong word. It's going to be something you should watch. I don't want you to love seeing people getting their ass kicked.
As one of my friends put it, I thought I was going to get a Wikipedia article about the WTO protests. Instead, I spent an hour and a half sweating my ass off, and I was like,
yeah, you're just like, oh my god, are they going to get any reprieve? But another thing that really got to me, I'm so mad right now because I have all these questions. I'm going not even answering the questions. That I thought was really interesting is people forget that this is around the shopping season. These protests happen November 30th, we're after Black Friday. This is a big shopping season, and these protests were happening in the downtown area where the shops are. This is where the suburbanites of Seattle, for those that don't know the geography of Seattle, it's got a lot of suburbs outside of the metro area, and people converge downtown to go to the fancy stores. And even those people were getting hit because all you white people look alike. You just couldn't tell the good ones from the bad ones. But I did think that while I was watching that. Should I be?
But yeah, the fear of that shopping district being destroyed in their eyes. It's incredible that the morning of the second day, when that reporter is down there talking about what a tragedy it is that the Pottery Barn is boarded up.
They're like, they destroyed the Nordstroms next to the Pottery Barn.
And she's going like, you see, there's trash everywhere, but then she goes, no, they're trash cans, but they're just dumpsters that are sitting there. She's like, you can see the graffiti, and it's on one little corner on the plyboard. Like, she's making into this massive thing, but seeing people say "fuck Nike" in front of Nike Town was very traumatizing to a certain class
in
of
the
people.
Northwest, where Nike's kind of made their bones, right? It's a few hours south in Eugene. That is interesting too, because that's part of the conversation that people are having about the WTO, which is Nike is the big bad for a lot of these people because Nike has sweatshop labor. And to shit all over Nike, it's also funny because I think when we think of Starbucks in 2025, people don't remember Starbucks of 1990. Shit, Starbucks until maybe 6-7 years ago was the greatest company in the world. Everybody loved Howard Schultz. He was the world's greatest boss. So to tear up a Starbucks, like, why would they do that?
Which gets a huge laugh in every screening when Charles shows up, and he's just like, to hit Starbucks, you got to question why. And I think the reporter just says, yeah, he doesn't understand why one of his stores was targeted, and audiences just scream laugh. And I was like,
he goes, we're even good on global trade. Like, what did I do? I'm not Nike.
And he's being interviewed at the Sonics game.
Oh, the Sonics game! Oh,
force him
damn. Damn, you're hitting low.
We're very happy we could include them.
Wait, do you have like a little bit of the Sonics in there?
It's just when
just when Schultz was talking. Oh,
yeah.
Hindsight.
He's at the game.
But those scenes are, I wouldn't say funny, but they're interesting to see that this is what people were calling out. But for a lot of cats are like, that's not my problem. I think a lot of the consumers are like, this isn't my problem. You guys are effing up my shopping.
Yeah,
traffic is horrible.
How am I gonna get my Christmas presents?
How am I gonna get the G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip? Tearing up the downtown like you are. And that's also a similar narrative that would happen with Occupy as well in the Bay Area where I live. It was for a little bit, people were like, yeah, I am part of the 99%. And it was like, well, they have homeless people peeing everywhere and destroying buildings. It's like, well, let's get these hippies out of here. And that becomes the simplistic narrative of all of this, which is these are hippies that are aimless, and they totally ignore something that you guys show, which I think was one of the really important things in this, is that when we think of protests, I think there's this conflation of protests and demonstrations. Like we think of the March on Washington, I think people see that as a protest. That's a demonstration, right? They got permits, they made signs. There was all kind of union affiliation, and you see something similar here where the AFL and CIO are there. They have a plan. They want to make a big demonstration to draw media attention to this cause. And then the police lose it. The police really feel like the culprits in all of this. If they go the way of the DC police and the March on Washington, maybe you don't have a film.
I'd rather not have a film, honestly. I wish we didn't have to make it.
But I love the fact that you showed kind of the police beforehand in these videos. These like public access. That's
Oh,
what's so great. It's like public access television. We plan on
on a talk show called Beyond the Badge, by the way, with that little intro that I think people sometimes first think we edited, but no, 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 that's just the intro to their show with the cop like closing the door and the slow-mo and a random shot of a guy running with his gun down an alley. It's insane.
and
What
and
what a treasure.
like when you see, for me, when you see the footage, for me, I've been to Seattle more times than I could count because as a touring musician, but there's a uniform that people wear in the Northwest. And everyone's wearing it, from the protesters to the people shopping to like, unless you were there for the WTO meetings in a suit,
Or
you have
their
the
trench coat.
Northwest uni, which is your North Face, a beanie, some sort of shoe that is Gore-Tex.
It's a very specific sense of place in this film.
Yeah, it's a uni that you have. It's your home uni when you live in the North in November in the Northwest. And so I felt like police were like, you know what, get them all, because it's, you show it towards the end of the movie when they started branching out into the more suburban areas of town, and people that had nothing to do with anything were getting hit. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, yeah. So they eventually branch out into Capitol Hill. I think they were doing this on the first day as well. We mentioned it, but we really get into it on day two. And they set up Mayor Paul Shell set up a no protest zone, an area with a curfew, and the cops work their way out to Capitol Hill, which is outside of the no protest zone, which is already absurd that exists, but they work their way out. This is outside that zone, and tear gas is getting into the apartments of college kids and just residents there. And it's pissing everyone off, understandably, because they're just in their homes. They're not outside protesting, and gas is leaking in and messing up their day, and whatever, all the health issues that stem from that. So of course they come onto the street and they're understandably pissed, but they're still just kind of yelling and chanting. They're being goofy in lines, yelling at the cops, who then just start throwing flashbangs, chasing them down the street in a very violent fashion, as you see. And they're pushing people into stores, telling them to take cover, and they're just like, get off the street, throwing them in. Once again, it gets very violent very quickly, and there's a lot about the policing in this film and things that were going on with it. One of which being this, like they knew people were coming into the city. They knew this was going to be a large demonstration. Some think they were underprepared. I mean, they were to a degree, like they weren't taking it fully seriously, but they did have fair warning. Han Shan, one of the other organizers of this, he and someone else, they would meet with the police in the weeks leading up to it to have that dialogue and that almost Hollywood sense, and would tell them like it's gonna be a big thing, like don't, like this is gonna happen. And they were semi laughed off, like, we know it's gonna be a protest, whatever, but it was much larger than they were prepared for. But some people were preparing, because there were like the pepper balls that they're shooting at the protesters. They're like little paintballs that explode with like pepper spray in your face, but it's contained in a small ball. That was literally an experimental weapon when this happened. This is the first documented deployment of it against American protesters. Kettling as a tactic was first documented in these protests. This is the first time that police taking on a protest were wearing the knee pads, elbow pads, and chest protectors that the riot cops wear. So they use this as a testing ground for eventual crowd control. And the entire protest and footage from it was used to train other precincts around the country in the aftermath, so they could be better prepared for when people rise up or attempt to. And yeah, this was a testing ground and a training ground, and used to further the education of these police to further their crowd control skills and slowly become more sophisticated at stopping any attempt at what could be considered an uprising or what have you. It's terribly disturbing.
No, it is.
Yeah.
In what ways did the police response in Seattle foreshadow the tactics we've seen used against protesters in the 21st century, from Occupy to BLM to the George Floyd uprisings?
Yeah, I feel like everything is it's similar but far worse now because they've in some cases had experience or had the training, and it's more sophisticated versions of the same moves in many cases. But now with much more surveillance. Though if you look at this, we have the footage that the cops were shooting. They were on the street with little camcorders. This is early DV,
Mhm.
so you could carry more tapes with you. It was lighter, and cops are on the street filming people for we can assume many different reasons. But there's that moment in the beginning of the film where the protester is filming the cop who then holds up his camcorder, and we have the tape that was in that camcorder, which I still can't believe. And we're like doing a match cut back and forth. But the fact that they were out there doing this kind of surveillance, I'm sure making some kind of database,
Yeah.
is terrifying to see it in a more rudimentary form than it's deployed in now, which is obviously far more high tech, far more dangerous. Yeah, so that is a new frontier to deal with, is the wider technological spread that they have and how it's deployed against people.
Did the Seattle protests achieve anything lasting, or were they, like later movements, kind of a moment of moral clarity with little structural change?
I'm of multiple minds on this. It was interesting to go into a project like this. We have our preconceived notions, but we also were looking to see how it connects to today.
Yeah.
In this case, it connected in many more ways than even we expected. But similarly, we can't make a film because we have no narration, we have no interviews, there's no voiceover. We only have the footage that we have access to. So I would call this film a distillation of what we saw in this 1,000 hours. It's about as honest and as objective as one can be while still making a film. And my takeaways from what's in the footage are they're multiple. So I do think in this instance, the protest was successful insofar as they did shut down to a degree and delay the proceedings of the WTO. So in a small way, they won. They achieved their goal. And if you read further, there's a great book by it's an oral history put out by D.W. Gibson called "1 Week to Change the World." It's an interview with tons of people who are there involved with this, and you can expand outward from what we can show in the film. But someone in there was talking about how in the actual the WTO conference, the people on the street were inspiring to African nations, Latin American nations, who are often kind of being bullied by the U.S., Japan, European Union, and because they saw these protests, it gave them more courage to push back on certain issues that were going to be harmful to them and their countries. So I think that is achieving something, at least in the short term. I also think there's a bit of naivete, especially at the end of the film, because you have people chanting, "Na na na na, goodbye, na 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 na,
Yeah.
we won,"
Yeah.
but they're surrounded by like 5,000 cops who look like stormtroopers who would kill them in an instant, and they've been perfectly corralled and doing, a non-obtrusive protest at that point. So you look at it and you go, they won in a way, but maybe, there's something darker is stemming out from this. And I mean, I don't, it did also bring awareness to these issues and did help those protests spread globally for the next like roughly year and a half. So that is achieving something too. But as we get to in the film, 9/11, and kind of shattered a lot of these movements, unfortunately.
Yeah, you talk about that towards the end of the film, which I found, again, pretty fascinating, because this is going to be 10 years before we get a big global protest movement in the 2010s, where
Mhm.
there's actual power taken in some of these movements. Um, can you name some of these other protest movements that we see globally that happened after 99?
Where do we see? They're at there's the World Bank protest. You see them at the Democratic Convention. But yeah, it's expanding outward, and it's a mix of the economic protests at you know our conventions, what have you.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a growing thing. 9/11 happens, and it fractures everything. I don't want to say that it just shuts it down immediately, but obviously people are still pushing with the economic protests. Some people move to the anti-war movement. It just
Well,
messes with some people so badly that they just get out of it.
the anti-war movement really blows up for a
Yes.
moment. Again, I think when we think about protests, a lot of us are stuck in 2020. It was a crazy year, not just protests,
Yeah.
the fucking global pandemic. But 2003, we see the largest protest in U.S. history.
Yes.
Globally, an anti-war protest. But then, the war still goes on.
Media doesn't really report on it.
After a while, no.
Yeah.
After a while, no one cared.
Yeah, so like some people moved from the economic protest to that movement, but it was really interesting that there was a screening where a bunch of union members who were there in '99, they all came out. There were like 10 of them roughly, and we discussed this for a while afterwards. And the weirdest compliment I think I've ever received in my life was from one of them who said, "You got 9/11 right." And I was like, okay, cool. But what he meant was how we mentioned, 9/11 happens, that the protests lose momentum. And he said that really it was the thing, which isn't surprising in hindsight necessarily, but for them, he just said their movements were harder to coalesce. It like we mentioned, people do move over to anti-war movements, but also just even events they were going to go protest were being shut down, with the blame being on 9/11. They were thinking maybe this is a way to just keep us from protesting, and so there were things like that happening as well. He just said, yeah, it just kind of floundered a bit after that. It was harder for them to get their footing once again.
Why do you think the anti-globalization movement in '99 has been so forgotten or minimized in popular political memory compared to the events like Occupy Wall Street?
I think the media reporting on it being what it was a constant attempt from the moment it was happening to minimize it. I think you can feel that palpably. I also think there's not, even though this archive exists and there is a lot of footage, there are not many documents of it. I think it's only recently that all this got digitized. This oral history came out just last year, which I think is fantastic and worth reading about. There's only a few documentaries, and then there was a unbearable fiction film called Battle in Seattle, which is trying to be a version of Medium Cool, but also fictionalize the stuff going on in the
When did
WTO
this come
protest.
out?
I think it was 2007. I highly recommend it now that you've seen
I've
enough, because
never seen it.
it is hilarious. Like the Channing Tatum is a cop in it, but he goes undercover as a protester, and then the riot cops beat the shit out of him, and he goes, "Oh no, we're bad!" Like that's the revelation.
Yes, he has a moment of clarity when he gets his ass kicked by
Yeah, it's
power.
pretty amazing.
They're
But
beating the shit. Look, if you guys watch this, and I encourage everyone to watch it. I don't remember if I put a link in the description. Where can people watch this, Alex?
oh, so WTO '99 is the film. We are currently only playing theatrically. We are touring. We have a proper theatrical release coming up in beginning December 5th. We mostly played film festivals so far throughout the year, but we're slowly expanding where we're screening. And if you go to WTO99doc, DOC, WTO99doc.com, our list of screenings is on there. It's always growing. And also, there's a form to contact us. And we offer to show this film to any activist groups who want to see it. Just hit us up. We'll find a way to make this work. I probably can't come out there, but we'll try and do a Zoom Q&A in some form. But we're trying to bring it to people directly if we can in that form. So I would say, at least until the middle of next year, the plan is to keep it theatrical only, constantly touring. But yeah, please check the website and hit us up anytime. And if you want to play a theater by you, let me know where you are, and we'll try to make something work.
I am a fan of that model. I was trying to do that model with my docu-series Kayfabe, but I don't want to say bitched out, but I just
it's a lot
it
of
was a
email.
series. So you have first we made a feature length. It was too dense because there's narration, and so we cut it in that. But we're cutting the present tense into episodes, which is way harder than I thought.
Yeah, but self-releasing, man, it's tough. But yeah, I should make that clear. We are self-releasing this, putting this out ourselves. So Yeah, a
Why
lot
that?
of
Why that model? I have my own reasons why. Again, as a musician that did it for years, I have my own reasons why. I think, me personally, I think the beauty of self-releasing something is that it's a different relationship to the project
Mhm.
than just streaming it. Once you stream it, it goes away. Maybe you see it again. Maybe you say, "Oh, you should watch this thing." But when you go to a thing, it's kind of back to going to the movies and buying popcorn and digging into your seat, not playing on your phone. You really want to see the thing that's in front of you. There's nothing that you guys did that would be like, this is for second screen viewing, you know?
it's a dense movie. There's a lot happening in it. Um, but yeah, it's part of it is the communal experience in the theater, and this one especially has been incredible to talk to audiences with after screenings. It's definitely a conversation starter, but something that's been amazing is seeing younger activists, protesters, and just students, younger people in general who come out. I've gotten people come up to me. They go, "I was 20 days old when this happened." Many
Yeah.
times they weren't even born yet, and they just go, "I had no idea this was a thing." And this movie that is, one could say is a bit of a downer, uh, tends to be very inspirational for them for a variety of reasons. Many of them seem to be part of the Gaza encampment protests, campus
Mhm.
encampments, or just protesting for Palestine in general. And there's something about the class unity that is shown on screen in a way that we're told is impossible in the United States. We're told this cannot happen, and that's a big part of this film too. Is that you see a real class unity between like far leftists to like there's guys who strange libertarian dudes on the street, one of which I think the one who you're just like, he's going to be an InfoWars guy in a couple years. You
Yeah.
know the guy.
Yeah.
um,
There's Fox News cameramen. What was interesting to me is the convergence of so many different. You have a young people protesting a bad thing, right? That just is going to happen with college-aged young people. You can tell they just read a little bit of Marx. It's kind of beautiful to see these
yeah.
people so excited. You have seasoned vets. Definitely, you have your share of anarchists
Mhm.
with face piercings, which really wasn't the commonplace thing in 1999. You were still like, oh, that person only works at Spencer's. Um, you have uh, agribusiness. You have people that are farmers
Mhm.
that are furious about Monsanto. So the conversion of all these interests in the same place, and again, you have the AFL and CIO there in unison.
Yeah, 25,000 strong marching down
Deep.
the
Yeah, they're
street.
deep. So there is a massive convergence of interests at this protest to protest global trade. And I do love the fact that you preface all of this with one Bernie Sanders in 1994
Yeah,
arguing on the Senate floor against the WTO.
still saying the same thing. Yeah, it's showing also how our political characters have really not changed in the
At
past, in
all.
some cases. I mean, Roger Stone shows up very briefly with the Trump 2000 website.
What I love about that is that Trump is against the WTO. People forget Trump was running around as a libertarian.
Yeah,
Some of the things I don't know if you watched that Nick Fuentes interview with Tucker Carlson, which was
I,
horrible.
I have
I,
not.
I made it a half hour in. And I was like, okay, I've had enough.
Yeah, braver than
But
I.
oh, dude, but yeah, I guess it's part of the job. So
Yeah.
I'll tell myself that as a part of the job. Punching myself. Uh, he had made some kind of off the cuff statement about Trump is like the first. I'm the first generation of Trump as a political figure. I'm like, no, not even close. This dude has been involved in local and national politics since he's been able to, be his own fake PR guy.
Yeah, it shows you, things. The same people are around, sometimes saying the same thing, but also that this doesn't Trump didn't sprout up out of nowhere. The
Yeah,
building blocks were there for
yeah,
so long, and that's and you can say that about the police force and our our glide into American fascism, it was there. You see it
Yeah.
25 years ago so clearly in this footage. You see the seeds being planted. In some cases, it's more stark than you'd expect, just given our short memory spans. That was another important part about making this, is to show people that this, like, Trump is not the aberration. Like, this was happening for a very long time, but media wants you to just think, oh, this popped out of nowhere. But it's not the
No,
case.
non-lethal. That was a real important part, and I feel like you guys captured that perfectly. It was either a city council person or a comms person saying they're using non-lethal rounds or something. The word non-lethal came out, and I was like,
Hmm.
this is where you're going to start hearing this, because power wants you to know this isn't Kent. We're done mowing down students with the National Guard. We're going to hit them in the face with pepper spray. It's a whole
And
different thing.
yeah, blinding them with rubber bullets. I mean, you see
That's
more than one person in this film who was shot in the eye,
yeah.
and they're not pretty wounds. I mean,
No, you had that
it's
lady.
brutal.
Wasn't the lady like not even a protester?
Yeah,
That
she was
she
just
gets
out
hit in the
there.
eye?
She said she was chanting "No
Okay.
more violence." That's all she was doing, and they shot her, just missing her actual eyeball. It's like right under, but her whole face is puffed up and was bleeding. Yeah, there's so many instances of that, and so much more we couldn't even fit into the movie just because of our very rigid structure. But there are some people who would get hit in the forehead with a rubber bullet, and their entire head would blow
Yeah.
up while bleeding. It's terrible, and you'd see that non-lethal. It's like it's bullshit.
You're supposed to
Aimed an
shoot
inch to the
those.
left, and they're
You're supposed to shoot
they're
those
out.
on the ground, right? And let them pop up. And they're just shooting kids.
They're shooting-
They're so close to the
I
kids. Like,
know.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the guy, I mentioned him already, but that guy in that long 2-minute shot who's just standing there getting pelted incessantly by multiple guns of those guys on that tank.
Mhm.
They're aimed right at him. It's so violent and so quick. And yeah, just to your point much earlier, that this was due to the police escalation so quickly. A really interesting comment we've gotten occasionally is, oh, it kind of erupts violently really quick in the film. You could have ramped it up more. Like, well, that's what happened. The cops just went from 0 to 100 in 3 hours.
They really did, man. I've never seen something so unnecessary. And I think the documentary really does a great job of showing it. Because again, a similar thing happened in Berkeley, California, where at Cal, University of California, Berkeley, where I can't remember what they were protesting. But the police came and just pepper sprayed the shit out of them in their face
Yeah.
as they got their arms linked. And it's like, but why? And
Yeah.
it really is that whole us against them. We got these new fancy toys we want to use. You people are bothering the city for
Yeah.
no reason.
Yeah.
So
How dare you block a street?
yeah, we're gonna
How
let you
dare
have it.
you?
We're gonna
That
have fun letting you have it.
Yeah, I mean, there's that one shot which really stands out, is the cop who walks up to that person, flips their gas mask off, and then sprays them in the face.
That dude.
We,
What another thing, and before you go, I think this is a really good part. And thank you again for talking with me, Alex. And if you guys want to get a hold of
thank you for
Alex
having me, man.
and you can't get a hold of him, please send me an email and I will pass it on to Alex. Booking at thisisrevolutionpodcast.com. I'm very easy to find. The cops say that they're arresting everybody with a gas mask.
Yeah, Marshall on day 2 during his press conference made it illegal to have a gas mask at 11 a.m. on the second day.
Easy.
You will
First
be
of all,
arrested for having a gas mask.
who the fuck just has a random gas mask? First of all,
The coolest people,
right? There's not too many people had random. There's like a handful of people that have gas masks.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that one peculiar goth kid at your high school, and then a few people on the street there.
Before those like gas mask bongs that were so popular in the 2000s, right?
There's the gas mask person and the goggles person in your suburban high school.
Yeah. Well, your school. That was before my time.
Definitely my school.
Man.
Yeah.
Make sure you send me some yearbook pictures from your graduation.
I got some photos for you, man.
But man, when I heard that, my heart kind of drops like, so you're gonna gas the shit out of these kids for no good reason, and the one thing that maybe 10 of them have, you're like, nope, we're gonna arrest you. Look, I don't
Yeah.
want to talk. Go, please contact Alex. Get a screening where you live of this movie. It is worth your time. The effort that was put into this, the love that was put into this, I felt it in every scene, in every cut. I could tell it was precise. Again, as someone that does this too, I'm like, oh, he was not lazy with these cuts at all.
That's a huge compliment, man. Thank you. It was Ian and I on our laptops across the country for 2.5 years straight.
You're not using Adobe or Final Cut?
Adobe.
Okay, you're a professional.
Unfortunately,
You're a real
yeah.
professional. You're a real professional.
You get grandfathered in, you get stuck. It sucks.
No, I look, like I said earlier before we're off here, I don't know if jealous is the right word. I was like, this is really good. I'm
Thank
glad
you.
I watched it before I released my episode 2 because I just have to step my game up. So that's all you did for me is make me step my game up, and I appreciate that. That's what people that are good at their craft do. They make you have to be better, and that's what you did.
Proud to do it. Thank you so much, man. And if you want to chat editing anytime, hit me up. We'll go deep.
Say no more.
Let's do it.
That is Alex MEGARO, the editor and producer of WTO 99. What else do you got cooking, Alex, before we go?
I mean, at the moment, my life is this movie. So Ian and I are touring with it, trying to get it screened. Yeah. So my life is WTO 99. So please, everyone, WTO99doc.com. Check out our screening list, and please hit us up on the contact form if you want something screened in your city or you're part of an organization. We'll work something out. We really just want this to be seen by as many people as possible.
I feel like there's enough organizers that watch this show. They'll hit you up.
I'm very serious about that. We've done a lot of organizational screenings, DSA screenings, what have you, and they've been wonderful so far. So, and they're spreading. So please be part of that. We're happy to make it happen.
Thank you very much, Alex. His name is Alex MEGARO. He is the producer, editor. Have a very good night. My name is Jason Miles, and I'm going to be going to the champagne room. Hopefully you guys will join me. If you want to join me, it's easy. Patreon.com /Bitterlake Presents, and you're in. I want to talk a little bit about racism and Halloween. There's some things that I saw that were kind of interesting. I think you guys will want to chime in on some of these. And on that note, I am where to go? Out.